Hi again everyone, thanks for joining me for yet another lesson video on an Allan Holdsworth tune. Today we're going to do Road Games, which is a song that I originally did not want to do a lesson on because I don't think there's a lot of cool stuff in there. There's not a lot of chords. There is quite a few amount of riffs in there, but if you're a beginner, or at least a beginner to Allan's music, this might be a good place to start because the chords themselves aren't really too complicated. There's not a lot of really weird stretching, and it's more riff based, so if you're more familiar with playing riffs and stuff, this song might be a bit easier for you. Hopefully I'll do a better job with this one than I did on the last one, in my opinion, but I'll only know when I'm done editing it. So anyway, let's just get right to it. Let's do Road Games. Alright, so starting off with the intro, this only happens here, it doesn't happen anywhere else in the song. The first lick starts out with some distortion. There's a lot of switching between distortion and clean guitar playing, and I'm mostly going to be talking about how Allan's playing this live, not so much on the record. There is a slight difference, but not anything extraordinary. So this lick is something that's very common in Allan's outside playing. It's sort of like a hand shape that he uses when he wants to go outside, and you can use it sort of randomly. It's a 5-note phrase. I like to think of this lick as basically a D major kind of lick. So let's say we have a D major arpeggio. We have F sharp, A, D, and then F sharp. So what Allan's doing is that he's starting from the minor third in F, and he's hammering on to the F sharp, and then moving up the D major arpeggio. But now instead of doing an F sharp here, he plays the 4, which is G. That's it. That's the whole 5-note phrase, and that moves chromatically down. And then you move that whole shape down a half step, and then you come back. Then you move down a half step again. That's it. And this is a shape that, like I said, Allan will use when he's playing outside. He might change the strings that it's on, but if you analyze a bunch of his solos, you'll be able to see it. So let me see if I can play this without botching it too badly. That's alright. So that's the lick, played with the drums, and then it switches to clean guitar. Quick update here, turns out I was a little wrong, I was missing a note. My friend Joe, the man, the myth, the legend, pointed this out. The next chord here is actually really unusual. It's a D flat major 7 with a flat 9, and it sounds like this. What makes this chord actually especially strange is we have a major 7 with a flat 9, so we have 3 notes in a row. We have a C sharp, and a D, which is really unusual. So it's really a D flat major 7 wearing in that flat 9, and I believe the bass is playing a C sharp power chords with C sharp and a G sharp underneath it, really hammering home that this is a major 7, but with that flat 9 in there. This chord doesn't actually really belong to any key, except I guess maybe one of the Messiaen modes, because you don't have any scales that have 3 half steps in them. Anyway, on to the rest of the lesson. And then after that comes this weird chord. Now, the reason why I call it kind of weird, because it's kind of hard to name. We have an A, we have a B, an E, an F, and then another E, which is also unusual that Allan's playing a chord that has 2 of the same notes in it. We have 2 E's here. But I think the best way to look at this is an F major 7 sharp 11, because we have an F, we have the A, our major 3rd, we have the sharp 11, which is B, and we have the E, which is the major 7. So there's no 5th in there. Also, on the record, I believe there's an A power chord with distortion on it, so we're going to be going back and forth between using clean guitar and distortion. This is what he plays live, and on the record he does the same thing, but there's just a buried A power chord in there. So then, that's really just the intro. That only happens that one time. Then we're going to go into the verse section, and I'll explain how it's a little bit different on the record than how it is live. So this is still kind of like the verse section, there's just no singing in it, it's still part of the intro. What Allan does live is he's playing a B and an E together, like this, sliding down to A and D, and then playing a C and a G. On the record, it's different because Allan's not only using distortion, but I believe he's actually layering a few guitar tracks. So he's not playing the notes at once. He's actually doing single note stuff like this. And then the other track would go. And there's also less variation in terms of Allan sort of playing around with the harmony because he's got to follow what he played before. Whereas live, he does, something like that or something a little bit different. But that's really what's going on there. Now it's a little harmonically ambiguous of what this really is. It's kind of like an E to a D to a C power chord in a way, just without the low A string. So this happens like this. Then what happens is Allan plays what I would consider a G sus2, and then moves to F, like this. And then that lick repeats again. Now live, Allan will actually add a little one of these, this D sus4 to D, like that. Now the reason why is because you don't hear this on the first verse here, but on the subsequent verses on the record, Allan actually adds a third guitar there. Once again, I'm just going to switch to a lead track just so I can explain it a little bit better. So while Allan's playing, it's also harmonized with. Now that happens on the first verse. The second verse, Allan's actually adding in an F sharp. Like that. So once you add in that extra line of harmony, we actually have an E minor to D major to C major. And then that's a little weird because then Allan plays a G sus2 and then an F sus2. So what's actually going on here is Allan's sort of playing in between two keys. He's playing mostly in G major or A Dorian for that F sharp. And same thing at the very end of that phrase when he plays the D sus4 to D. But when he's improvising later, he's treating the whole thing as D Dorian or C major because whoever's playing bass, I think it was either Jeff Berlin or Jimmy Johnson when they were playing this live, they're just playing that A. So you can really play between playing an F sharp or an F, but on the record, Allan mostly solos in D Dorian with that F in there, that minor third from D to F. Once again, you can treat it however you want. Also, it makes sense because during the solo, Allan plays a chord that belongs more to C major than it does A major, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So anyway, that's really the main line for the verse, and then there's this other special sort of like lead section. So I'm going to keep the distortion on just to show you. So we've got the. We get to this little lead part. Starts with a pickup with an open E, but then we play an F sus2 triad, like that, but we arpeggiated, so it's E, F, C, G. Then this little A minor arpeggio. You can think of this whole thing as part of the C major pentatonic scale, but it's, which is A minor, and then we're playing a D there. So we have an E, A, C, D. And then we switch to this C major descending arpeggio. We have a G, E, C. Then you take this C, you slide up to D, and then we play a C, and then back to A. Like that. 2 power chords, an A power chord and a G power chord. Then we do sort of like a variation of that A minor pentatonic or C major thing. It starts off the same way with the A minor, which is E, A, and C, but now we switch to a G sharp or an A flat major arpeggio. So we're playing a D sharp, G sharp, and a C, and then a D sharp. And then from this part, I think this is where Allan starts to blend the third Messiaen mode. So this would, I guess, would be, you can think of it as I believe C sharp Messiaen. If I'm even saying it right, I might even be saying properly. This would be the scale 10 on his instructional video, what he uses for that outside playing. So once we get to that D sharp with our pinky, Allan then taps a G sharp, and then pulls off the G sharp, and then pulls off between an E, a D sharp, and then a C sharp. So it's 16, I'm going to use tab for this because it'll be easier. 16, 12, 11, 9. Then you take that whole shape, move it down a string and up a fret. So then we have 17, 13, 12, 10. We move that down to the G string, 17, 13, 12, 10. Once again, down a string and up a fret to 18, 14, 13, 11. And then you slide down a half step to 10. But what's happening is Allan's actually playing it like this. So you have to tap that first note with before you move to the next string, and it could be a little bit tricky to get all the notes in there. That's what it should sound like. Then we switch to clean guitar. I'm not going to really switch to clean guitar just for the ease of it, but it's a 2-chord phrase. This one's a little tricky because it's very fast, and Allan's going to switch between using his pick now to using his fingers. He's going to bury that pick again underneath his first finger, and it's a cool idea. It's a D major to an F major 7 sus2. And what's happening here is the top note is moving chromatically up from F sharp, G, G sharp to A. And then finally, like that, it goes chromatically up from F sharp to B, sorry. But it's that 2-chord phrase, D major to F major 7 sus2. Then that's modulated up a whole step to E major to G major 7 sus2. Modulated up again a whole step to F sharp major to A major 7 sus2. But the last 2 chords are a little fast. I'm going to use my pick here because actually it'll be easier for it to ring out. Like that, and then that moves, that whole thing harmonizes down a whole step, and now we start on C. C major, E flat major 7 sus2, D major, F major 7 sus2, and then E major to G major 7 sus2. Once again, we got that chromatic movement on the top high note. Like that. Allan actually, when he plays it, that's actually tricky. I would suggest barring with your third finger and then barring with your first finger for the F major 7 sus2. Allan actually plays it by barring with his pinky and then just playing the F major 7 sus2 like this. But I find that a little bit harder, especially to bar with your pinky. And then back to the verse. Beats again the same way. Once again, live there's a lot of little play in there, but this is really the essence of what's going on. And then we come to this chord shape. We've seen this before in Material Real. You can think of this as a couple of ways, as like an F6/9, I guess without the third, or an F6 sus2 chord, and it just looks like this. And of course it's being arpeggiated. Same chord that we saw in Material Real for the just move down, we'll move up to the 13th fret, making it much easier to grab. So I don't think that's really too bad. But that's the whole chorus part, it's just this chord arpeggiated. So that's really the meat of the song, and then for the next part I'll just show you some of the little differences and the tapping section. So after the F6 sus2 part in the chorus, it goes back to the verse again, starts and ends the same way. This time, like I said on the record, Allan's actually playing that third harmony. It's hard to hear, but like I said, all the tracks are being layered by individual guitar lines, not being played all at once. Like it is live. But when it happens live, Allan just plays the power chord part. And then for the very end of it, where he adds the D sus4 to D. Then it goes into that riff part that we were talking about with the E pickup into the F sus2 arpeggio. And then the same chords again. So that happens, and then we get into the tapping section. Now this is the part Paul Williams comes over and actually dampens the strings for Allan instead of using like a string dampener. This part's pretty straightforward, but it's kind of tricky to play. If you have jumbo frets or low action, it shouldn't be so bad because the tapping is so fast on it. I'm going to use a little bit of distortion because when I play it on clean, it's hard for those notes to ring out. But this is what's happening in the beginning. It's Allan, of course, starts to ditch the pick. I think he puts the pick in his mouth here. But you're tapping 2 notes with your right hand, and then you're also tapping 2 notes with your left hand. So Allan's playing this, I would sort of think of this as an A major sort of shape. He's playing a C sharp and an A. It's really like an A6. And then he's tapping that with his right hand, and his left hand is playing a G and an E on top. Like that, and it's alternating, but it's not straight back and forth. There's a little bit of a rhythm in there. With your right hand, you're tapping 1, 1, 1, 2, and then you're tapping with your left hand again, and that happens again. Like that, and it's fast. Something like that. Then what happens is you switch the 2 notes that you're tapping from C sharp to A, but now you're switching them to G and E, and with your left hand you're now moving up to the 14th position and you're playing an E and a C sharp. Straight back and forth like that. But now you keep your left hand on the guitar neck fretting these 2 notes. Then with your right hand you move up a whole step, so now you're tapping an F sharp and an A. And then what happens is you pull off so that the left hand notes ring out. Then you play sort of that first shape again, how you had to stagger it between the 18th and 17th fret. You do the same thing here between the 21st and the 20th fret. So you're playing a B and a G. This is pretty diatonic. It might be 100% diatonic. I'm just doing it off the top of my head. To A mixolydian, which is part of D major. So this might be like an E Dorian thing to Allan. So after you play these 2 notes with your right hand, you're tapping the B and the G, you pull off to your left hand to play that E and C sharp, and then you move down a half step to D and B. So it should sound something like this. And that's it, and then that repeats again. I'll do it slow. Then you come up with that same sort of tapping motif, but now you're keeping your left hand on the 12th fret, and then you're going to be tapping the 17th fret with your right hand. So you've got a G on the D string, and you've got an E on the B string. You do the same thing again, so it's right, left, right, pull off, right again, pull off to your left hand, and then you actually pull off your left hand to the open strings, and then you hammer down a whole step, so now you're playing a C and an A with your right hand. Like that. And then repeats again. One last time. actually, it was a little bit dirty with distortion. I'll try to switch to clean so you can hear it a little bit better. So I'll do that now, and then I'll talk about the end of the song. And that's what that part sounds like. So, now on to the solo section. Solo section, the concept of it is very simple. Allan, once again, is playing over the verse section, but the bass is really just playing that A. Well, that part is really being implied, and he's treating it as D Dorian, so it's really more of like a straight A minor sound, Aeolian sound, but of course he's thinking of D Dorian. And he's just playing as free as he wants to. It's one of those sort of outside sections where you can do whatever you want as long as you're sort of within that key. Then it switches to over that F6 sus2 part. Of course, there's no harmony underneath it. It's what the chords that well, at least what Jimmy Johnson or Jeff Berlin is implying. And like I said, that works a little bit better because that belongs to C major than it does to playing in G major, because we now have an F. So, like I said, he's probably thinking of that whole thing as I just get to play in D Dorian for as long as I want. And just to, you know, not for as long as he wants, but for that entire section, and just play real cool outside kind of stuff. Then once again, it goes back into the sort of the F sus2 lead part. And then the last verse, yada, and then it's the end of the song. So the end of the song, Allan's just playing this one chord the whole time, that F6 sus2 chord. But the real interest is what's happening in the bass. So what's happening is the bass is playing different root notes over that to make that chord sound a little bit different, which I really think sounds awesome. It's my favorite part of the song personally. So over this F6 sus2, the bass is sort of implying a C, and also there's like a little bit of a bass solo in there. So over this C, Allan's playing this chord. So it's kind of like this. You can also homogenize this chord with this C. So this is sort of like a C sus4 add 9 kind of sound. Then the bass, after two measures, moves to A, which is a little strange because now we have a flat 13 in there. So this is like an A minor 11 with the flat 13, because if we're thinking of A as our root, and then let's say we have an E, we're playing the F, which is the flat 13, the D, which is the 11, and we also have a C, which is the minor 3rd, and a G, which is the minor 7. Then that bass note moves up to B flat for two measures, which this sounds pretty nice. This is like a B flat 6-9 kind of sound. You can almost do it like this. And you can see, if we're treating this as B flat, we got the 9 here. We've got the we've got the 6 here, the 9 here. We've got the major 3rd, and we've got the 5. Then that bass moves to G for one measure, which gives it like a G7 sus4 kind of sound, like a, you know, like the Roxanne kind of chord. Then the best part is the ending, because that B flat then moves to E flat. And now we have like an E flat major 13 with a 9 in there. So like a, not an add 9, but it's a 13, but the 9 is also in there. So it's an E major 13 with that 9. Beautiful way to end the song. And that's, you know, there's some improvisation there as well on the record, but that's the whole song. Like I said, it's relatively simple. It's got a lot of riffs in it. Some little tricky things. That tapping part will help out a lot if you got something to mute the strings, although I don't really believe in that. But you can tell by how sloppy it sounded that it does help out quite significantly, especially for stuff like that, because you're tapping that part so hard, you might just hit the open D string and then kind of sounds like a mess. So anyway, that's Road Games. The next song that I'm going to do is now going to be a tougher one. So I hope you learn something or have fun trying to play this, and I'll see you guys next time.
Song.